Tuning in to the 6-3 podcast. I'm your host, Joel, my co-host, Ben. This is one of our most depressing episodes of the year. So if you're already dealing with anxiety and depression, maybe just sit this one out, folks.
Yeah, probably a good idea.
I mean, it's sad because, from Michigan fan perspective, from Michigan State fans, tune in and stay smiling at us, I guess. That was as good a game as you probably expected from two top 10 Big Ten squads.
Yeah.
There's some questionable things in the game, but ultimately you don't choke a 30-14 halftime lead. So I think, what were your thoughts watching that game? I watched it in Wentzville, Missouri, but and it was just a different experience. But what did you think about that game when you were watching
it? So Michigan had everything mostly go against them from, just the non-game stamp, from officiating to just some bad breaks. And they still should have won the game by 10 points, probably 2 touchdowns even. The opportunities were there, and they didn't capitalize. So, I'm going to sit here and be frustrated about the couple of bad, terrible calls or no calls. But in the end, that shouldn't have been the difference in the game. They allowed it to be a difference in the game because they missed out on opportunities. Not really the game I was expecting. Michigan State made the explosive plays, mostly on the ground. Peyton Thorne didn't really have all that good of a game. He made some big throws in big spots, but Michigan pressured him all day. But they couldn't contain Walker, and they did for most of the first half. And that's what I felt.
Except for that one bounce outside, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I felt pretty good at halftime, honestly, other than I felt like, the strip sack that got called back was a big play because that was kind of, they had all the momentum if that had been called a touchdown. So that was the frustrating part because they end up getting a field goal, which is, because Michigan State ended up punting the ball to them. But who knows? They could have gotten a strip sack and then had enough time to stop them and get the ball back again. So, that was kind of a turning point. But again, if Michigan had come down and scored a touchdown on that first drive of the second half, I think that would have been another huge turning point. They just didn't capitalize. Cade McNamara played the best game of his life.
Yeah, he did.
If you're Michigan too, and your quarterback throws for 380 yards, you have to win that game. I'm sorry, you have to find a way to win that game.
I mean, that's 20 yards short of Shea Patterson's record in that rivalry game. So
exactly. So the game, he throws for 380. You got to win the game. Yeah, I mean, he missed some throws. There was a couple throws on the flea flicker. He missed Andrew Anthony, who had a great game, by the way.
Yeah, he's gonna have a good future.
Yeah, missed him on the flea flicker, which sucked.
JJ McCarthy made a heck of a throw to Anthony there in the first half as well, but then obviously he had some ball handling issues in the second.
Yeah, I mean, Harbaugh blamed that one on Corum. I don't know. We'll see. But not that it really matters in the end. He fumbled twice. One of them went out of bounds, so it was pretty inconsequential. But I wasn't mad how they used McCarthy at all. It sounds like on the second fumble, McNamara was injured too, so that's why McCarthy was in the game. So that makes a little more sense now. So, you can't really complain too much about the offense. Put up over 500 yards of offense, and you should win that game. Now they settled for too many field goals, which is they've been doing most of the year. But again, that the game was more lost on the defensive side of the ball than offense. They scored enough points. They put up enough yards. They made enough big plays on offense early and often. I mean, I felt it was one of those games where, I felt good anytime, even when Michigan would be 3rd and 9. I'm like, all right, we got the weapon. Eric Hall had 10 catches. Andrell Anthony had 150 yards receiving. Mike Sanger still had a big game. I felt good every time we dropped back to pass, even on 3rd and 9, that hey, we're gonna at least be able to make a play here. So it was a fun game to watch from an offensive standpoint, but the defense just didn't tackle well, and they just weren't sound in certain things, and they let Walker get loose, and just really didn't have a great game plan defensively. And Michigan State took advantage of some of the stuff, and it's frustrating because that's the first time all year that I've been frustrated with defensive coaching or the defensive side of the ball. So, I mean, it's bound to happen occasionally. Like you can't be perfect, and the players also have to go out there and execute. It's not always just the coaches called something wrong or did something wrong, but yeah, I mean, they were out schemed a few times. And Michigan State makes you pay because they aren't necessarily an efficient offense, but they're a big play offense, and they make you pay for any mistakes. So super frustrating. I see even afterwards, I didn't rewatch the whole thing, but as I was mostly rewatching a lot of it, I'm going, there's no way they should have lost this game. But in the end they did. And that's just kind of how it kind of just fell apart for them at the end. Suddenly, and I felt really good for like 3 quarters in like 5 minutes, and then when there was about 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, I'm like, I just kind of felt that impending doom coming upon us again, because it's like this. Nope, I don't feel good about this one, the way this is trending. So
yeah, I felt kind of that same way right around that 8 to 10 minute mark in the fourth quarter. I was just like, this doesn't seem. They have all the energy in the stadium. Now they got it all back after being down 30-14. Like you felt going into halftime, even with some of the late questions with officiating, obviously before halftime, like Michigan had that game by 16 points still. That's 2 touchdowns, 2-point conversions, and we let them get both of those. Mm-hmm. And
30-14 is when I'm like, okay, but at the same time I said, you just got to score one more touchdown. Like just one more touchdown, and I'm like, all right. At that point, then it's like you're good, but they never put the nail in the coffin though. They were never able to just put them away.
Yeah, it got pretty conservative there, and like you said, that's been the nice run game that they've really had all year is really come into play, because you can just put teams away because the run game is getting the first downs. But they've relied so much on McNamara, and that's why McNamara had one of the best games of his career. But that run game with Corum and Haskins, Edwards didn't even see the field, didn't get a single snap on the offensive side. And he was
hurt too, though, apparently.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that, but I noticed these guys aren't getting their same chunk yardage anymore. Like Slade did a really nice job. Panashuk did a good job. Like their defensive front took care of the offensive line, who's really been a strength for the Wolverines this year. But I think another thing we've learned in this game is we've definitely kind of pegged out who are the starters for the remainder of this season. DJ Turner looks like he's officially taken over Jamon Green. Yep. It looks like the 2 defensive tackles are Hinton and Mozzie Smith now. Mike Morris got his snaps still. Donovan Jeter get their snaps, but now you noticed it leveled out a little bit more. Nikai Hill-Green is no longer the starting linebacker there. Josh Ross is pretty much Junior Colson.
Yep.
So I think with that, the starting 11 on defense is at least, figured itself out. Trevor Keegan did get his snaps, but still split with Carson Barnhart.
Barnhart started, and then he screwed up, and I think Keegan played most of the second half.
I think they were hoping that Barnhart could have played that game, but yeah, he didn't look as primed. I don't know. JJ McCarthy got his 7 snaps. Like he's kind of been hanging around that, other than against Wisconsin.
Right.
Oh, not against. Oh, yes, his highest snap count this year was actually Western Michigan when he had 26. Mm-hmm. NIU, he had 23. He didn't have any against Washington, none against Rutgers, 10 against Wisconsin, 6 Nebraska, 14 Northwestern, and 12 this week. So, I don't know. The biggest question is Roman Wilson, because his snap counts are like this every week.
Hurt too, though. Remember?
Is that?
He got hurt after the big game he had against Wisconsin. He hurt his wrist, so then he didn't play against Nebraska. Maybe?
No, yeah, 0 against Nebraska. He had 5 against Rutgers the week before Wisconsin, none against Nebraska, and then 5 again in Northwestern. He only 7 yesterday. Yeah. But before that, I mean, to start the season, 32, 56, 18.
I think the other thing is Dalen Baldwin didn't play a lot this week, so it was mostly the receivers were mostly Cornelius Johnson, Andrell Anthony, and Mike Sainer still. And then AJ Henning got some snaps. Which,
well, yeah, but you can't. I mean, typically Andrew Anthony hasn't gotten that many, but you don't take him out after the game started with.
Yeah,
that's what Harbaugh said in the Michigan podcast with John Jansen. He essentially said you don't take out Andrew Anthony when he's heated up like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they found something there, and Michigan State's pass defense is bad. I mean, we knew that going into the game.
Yeah.
They weren't good, which is why we were kind of hoping they would, exploit that a little bit. We talked about that last week, but they found something there. Dalen Baldwin, he's been bad for the most part, honestly.
Yeah.
So they, I think he kind of overtook him. And then Roman Wilson, he's been hurt here and there. So obviously I know he hasn't played much lately, but I think they still have something there too if he's healthy. So I feel actually okay about the receivers now. But what this week did mostly is like, okay, guys, like Cade McNamara is your starting quarterback right now. Like, it really didn't change the way I think about either guy, I'll be honest, other than like McNamara just played really, really well. But what it did is what I hope happens is, hey, maybe now, how Jake Rudock that year in 2015, where he just had an incredible like second half of the season, and was just putting up like crazy numbers at the second half of the season. That's kind of what I'm hoping is clicking here for Cade McNamara, where it's like, okay, he's settled in, he's figured it out a little bit now. Now he's feeling good about himself. He knows what he's doing, knows what he's looking for, and can get really hot now at the end of the year. Not saying JJ's not the future. He is the future, and they still need to play him. I liked what they did. They were putting him in as soon as they got in the red zone, and then letting him throw. Like that pass was great. I mean, that helps your red zone problems if you attack the end zone before you get down to like the 3-yard line. It's really hard to pass or do anything when you're at the 3-yard line. Like, it's really difficult. It's
congested back there. So.
It's congested, so you might as well take your shot when you're at the 15 instead of at the 3. So I really kind of liked what they did with him. Obviously, the fumble sucks. That really kind of put Michigan behind the 8 ball, but I don't think it really changed anything what you're doing with him. He can still help them, but I think Cade McNamara right now is the best guy for them, for this team. So,
yeah, I mean, and I think like you just alluded to it, Cade McNamara, if he does heat up, this team could hang with Penn State. This team can hang with Ohio State, maybe. Like Jake Rudock hung with Ohio State. Who's to say? So, I mean, I think there is something there. But it's nice to see, like, this is the game that I really wanted to see against a high-level competition. MSU certainly is. And the fact that he was able to put this game on his shoulders. He did in Wisconsin. We got the flash. We're like, we don't know what Wisconsin was at that point. Now Wisconsin's back in the top 25 after beating down Iowa. But I think that was a big thing for me. And it puts a little more ease on, fans like myself. Probably there's several more that are like, yeah, McNamara can take care of this for the rest of the year. At the bye week, I was like, let's see if we can get JJ in now. And I don't want to see JJ more than, his regular 10 to 15 snaps a game.
Yep. And if you do see him a lot, it
means you're killing them.
It means you're killing them, hopefully, or McNamara's hurt, which but McCarthy can still help you with things. He runs the ball better. He had a nice run against Michigan State too, for like 12 yards. So he can still help them win games. It's just Cade McNamara is clearly the guy right now, and he's starting to figure it out a little bit. And that's not to say he's going to throw for 380 yards this week or every week.
Right.
I think a lot of that was just because of how the game was going. But if they can get, more of like 270 out of him, consistently making good throws like he was in hitting weapons, and having a guy like Andrew Anthony who can take the top off the defense and just can fly like that changes what they can do. And then, complement that with maybe getting back to the run game a little bit. Michigan State's a good run defense, so I don't think they ran the ball poorly necessarily. They just didn't run the ball to close out the game, which I know they wanted to, but they weren't able to. And that was the 2 to 3 yards aren't going to get it done. You have to go back to and the turning point in the game, in my opinion, was the 4th down. Michigan had 4th and 1. with the lead with the ball, and they got under center and they ran, but it was a false start. But Hassan, the way the play was going, Hassan Haskins was easily going to pick up the first down and maybe way more. And that would have extended a drive, and they would have at least gotten points on that drive.
Yep.
But they ended up having to punt. And that was a turning point in the game because Michigan State came right down the field, scored, got 2-point conversion, and suddenly you're in a ball game again. And that they gone down and scored a touchdown there, Michigan probably wins. That probably puts the game away. So
a lot of the, especially Big Ten competitive football games like this, and you're playing good competition, like you need to keep the wind at your sails. And I think they really lost a lot of it in several points of the game. I think there's a few points where they got it back, and then it was just ripped away from
back and forth. We kind of thought it might be. I mean,
it was a fun game. It's hard to be terribly upset about it. You wish things could have been different. But the season's still not over. They still have games to win, and that's kind of what we can look forward to here with Indiana, a game that we're both attending. Indiana has 3 quarterbacks they could potentially swing out there between Michael Penix Jr., Jack Tuttle, Donovan McCulley. So
sounds like they're going to go with McCulley.
Interesting. I did not hear that they made official decision.
That's what Tom Allen said. They're probably going to go with McCulley, which good luck, sir.
I know he's got their least amount of. I mean, he's been efficient when he has played, but I don't know.
I mean, I know Penix has been hurt. So is Tuttle. They both. I mean, the other two have been hurt, but I think they're both possibly available this week. But I think I don't know. I think at this point they're ready to move on. Penix has been terrible this year, if we're being completely honest.
Yeah, 4 touchdowns, 7 picks. Yeah.
Yeah. And they just haven't been a good offense at all. So, yeah, I mean, I think if you're Michigan, it's actually good. I didn't want it to be a night game for personal reasons, but it's really good that I think it is good that it's a night game because the players just get fired up for night games. You don't want to have a hangover from the Michigan State loss. Not that I necessarily think there would be, but it's cool that it's a night game at home. Everybody's gonna be fired up. It's gonna be kind of cold. That kind of fits what Michigan is too. They want to run the ball. Indiana's got a good defense though. So I'm actually kind of expecting like a 30-14 game, 31-14 maybe. Maybe 31-10, something like that.
31-10 would be that's a nice win. If you get a 31-10 win against Indiana, you got to be happy with that. I think it's gonna be a little bit closer than that. And they've got pieces: Ty Freifogel, Peyton Hendershot. Stephen Carr is probably a middle range running back in the Big Ten. I wouldn't say there's anything super good about him. I think he's averaging under 4 yards a carry, but one of the best linebackers in the Big Ten, maybe even college football, is Mike McFadden. And I think he's been huge for that defense. So there's just Ryder Anderson, Micah McFadden, Cam Jones. Like they've got pieces on that. Yeah, it's a good defense. Michigan just has to stick to what they try to open it up with the run game. But if you got to go back to the pass, McNamara is a guy that's again just proven it against a high level competition. So it'll be exciting. So yeah, I have to put a score on it. I think it's going to be. I think I can see Michigan's breaking open Indiana later in the game, just wear them down maybe, and then that's when they maybe get 14 points in the fourth quarter. So I'll say 38-20, 38-20.
Okay. Yeah, if Michigan goes 38 on the defense, I'm gonna be really happy with this offense. Which I think they could. I mean, I certainly think they could, but this is the same defense that held Michigan State to like 20 points.
I just think Michigan's got I know Indiana's figured some things out since then, but like they lost 34-6 to Iowa, and I think Michigan's got a better offense than that. I think Western Kentucky scored 31 on them, so it's possible. This defense has found if you can exploit the holes in the defense, then good. But it can be done, and I think Michigan didn't put up more points than we probably anticipated even against Michigan State. So if they wear down the Indiana defense because they're the offense isn't getting anything going against Michigan's defense, maybe they lose a little bit of energy and some spice, flair, whatever you want to call it, and Michigan comes out and puts 14, 17 more points or something in 3 possessions on Indiana to finish the game. So that's kind of what I expect. I can see it kind of being semi-close before that fourth quarter, and then Michigan pulls away. So
Yeah, I think, and if you're Michigan, like you got to kind of feel like, just because of how like the rankings just came out now, you got to feel like, look, the season is still right there in front of us. If if they win out, they're going to have a chance. You would think they'd have a chance right at the end, to win the Big Ten and make the college football playoff if they went out, right? The committee obviously thinks pretty highly of them. One, they put Michigan State number 3, but they put Michigan number 7, right? So they're probably gonna need a little bit of help. But if they win out and do so, and they just got to beat the teams they're supposed to beat too. That's what I said before the season. If you beat the teams you're supposed to beat, you're going to be 8-4 anyway, right? And then at that point, then you kind of figure out who the team is, right? So if they beat Indiana, they're at 8 wins suddenly, and then it's like, okay, there's probably one more for sure win on the schedule at that point.
Yeah, Maryland maybe, yeah.
And then you got 2
tough games.
One for sure toss up, and one you're probably going to not be a favorite, right? So the season's right there in front of them. It's just they got to go take it, and we'll see how they respond, because this is obviously the first time they've really taken any kind of gut punch. So Harbaugh's typically been pretty good after losses, though. So
yeah, let's hope history repeats itself.